Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, three graded stakes races at the Spa on Saturday, but the main event is race number 11, the Grade 1 $1 million Jockey Club Gold Cup. We're going the classic distance of 1.25 miles. Let's take a peek at this field, and the number 2 Olympiad looks get back on track. He won 5 in a row. He got beat in the Whitney last time out. I know you were trying to fade him in that race, Mike. He doesn't have to deal with life is good here.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, it just felt like the Whitney was a way tougher race than any of the prior 5 that he had won, Dan. I feel like, coming back in this Jockey Club Gold Cup, this is sort of more in line with the kind of field that I think Olympiad is supposed to be really tough in. I think there's a pretty good chance he rebounds here.
And let's note the Timeform US Pace Projector, because one of Olympiad's great attributes is his tactical speed and his ability to get close to the pace. That's what helped him down American Revolution in the Stephen Foster 2 starts back, and it looks like they're going to try similar tactics. Tax is going to go for the lead, given a good break from the inside post. Olympiad could sit off and get the jump on American Revolution again.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I mean, I didn't, see a ton of pace in this race, particularly going this distance. I feel like Olympiad is supposed to be right up close here, Dan. I don't think it's going to be, so taxing a pace as the Whitney was.
Nice little pun there with taxing pace. I don't think it will be a taxing pace. Let's watch Tax last time out. This is the Battery Park at Delaware, and what's notable about this race is it's his first race off a 1.5-year layoff. Tax, of course, won the Jim Dandy back in 2019. He has always been a hard hitter with good speed. And off the long layoff, he splashed home in the Battery Park, and the runner-up was in very sharp form. He would come back to win a stake at Laurel with a 100 buyer.
Yeah, I liked what Tax did in this race. They used his speed from the start. He was basically loose up front the entire way. Still looked pretty good winning, though, Dan. The figure came back pretty solid. We'll see what he does here. This is obviously just a way tougher race for a horse who has missed an awful lot of time. He's always been pretty good. His top race gives him a real chance. Or a little concerned. I don't know if you looked at this or not, Dan, but a little concerned that the 2 really bad performances on his card are the 2 races where he was unable to race on Lasix. Lasix is off.
Olympiad is the number 2, and he's simply the horse to beat based on his excellent form in 2022. He came in with 5 consecutive victories to the Whitney, and he just didn't fire in the Whitney for whatever reason. The track seemed a little bit deep and tiring. It was wet, his first time over a wet surface, but Life is Good went to the front and kind of just played catch me if you can, and Olympiad was empty after a half mile.
The real problem that Olympiad had in that race is exactly what you're referencing there, Dan. He got into a race against a horse who not only is probably one of the 2 or 3 best horses in the country right now, but a horse is just really fast and way faster than Olympiad. And Olympiad was in a tough position throughout the running there, having to chase Life is Good on a really fast pace. I've heard, several people say that he, totally bombed in the Whitney. I kind of don't really look at it that way. It obviously was a step back. But it's not like he didn't show up at all. He chased Life is Good all the way to the top of the stretch in that race. He got really tired in the last 1/8 of a mile, but it's not like he didn't do any running at all. He was just, in my opinion, just in a really, really bad position. And this is just a way better race for him, I think.
A horse that might be able to get close to the pace is one of Todd Pletcher's runners, the number 3 Untreated, going out for Team Valor and Jose Ortiz. This horse ran well from off the pace in the Excelsior 3 starts back, was on the lead in the Pimlico Special, probably because when the expected speed of that race just didn't really break and make to the front. Untreated ran well in that race. He ran well in the Suburban, but he was beaten on the square both times.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to find excuses for any of his last 3 races. I don't think I would say that he ran poorly in any of them, although going back to the Excelsior back in April, that was a pretty discouraging loss against a short field where he had the lead and just got outfought by, the big long shot there, Forewarned. His last 2 races are fine, but they don't, make him one of the major players in here. This is an even tougher race than the Suburban was.
Now, a horse that might need a little bit of pace to do his best is a long shot, and that's the number 4 Chess Chief for Dallas Stewart and Manny Franco. This horse was 3rd in the Alydar last time out. The Alydar was a restricted race, really in name only. You had a Grade 1 talent in there, an art collector who would come back and win the Charlestown Classic last week with a 98 buyer speed figure. Chess Chief had to be close to a moderate pace. He sort of finished evenly. He's now making his 3rd start off of a short layoff, but I don't know. I think he's kind of been exposed against top horses.
Yeah, I look at it in the same way. I just can't see him winning this race. I don't think the 1.25 miles works against him, but he doesn't have a great running style for this race. And, there really aren't any races over the last couple of years, Dan, that give him a real chance against this field.
Now, a 1.25 miles is the big question mark for the number 5, American Revolution, a New York bred for Pletcher and Joel Rosario. A mile is no problem. He, of course, won the Cigar Mile as a 3-year-old, and he looked very, very good, winning races like the Empire Classic and the Albany at 1.125 miles. Now, he didn't run very well in his first start off a lengthy layoff when beaten by Dynamic One. Maybe he needed that race at Churchill. Last time out, Olympia just beat him fair and square. American Revolution, I thought, had a decent trip. He swung to the outside. Olympia was just too much horse on that day. This horse arguably has a little bit more upside, perhaps, than some of the others.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at him. I think he does have upside. He's also got several fast races on his card already, races that are going to make him a real contender in here. If he can get the distance, I don't know about you, Dan. Personally, I'm not that worried about the distance for him, but he does have to prove that he can get the 1.25 miles. And I'm also in agreement with you on your take on his first 2 starts this year. I thought the blame when Dynamic One beat him, to me, he just needed that race off the layoff. He wasn't sharp at all, and he got tired through the stretch. He improved last time, but even in doing that, he was no match for Olympiad. So, are you so sure that this horse is going to be better at the 1.25 miles than Olympiad is? I'm not, and I just wonder what the disparity in price will be between the two.
The number 6 is First Captain for Shug McGahee, Luis Saez. First Captain is going to appreciate every step of this 1.25 miles. He is a true stayer, and ever since Shug finally got the opportunity to stretch him out, this horse blossomed. He won the Pimlico Special over Untreated 2 starts back, a race where he got a really nice ride from Saez. He was briefly 4 wide on the second turn. He dropped in a little bit to save some ground, then got out and got up. And in the Suburban last time out, he tried very hard. He just dropped a tough decision to Dynamic One, but again, blinkers, extra distance. Let's put this horse right over the top.
Yeah, it has. He's really. It does feel like he's even getting better still, Dan. I don't think we've seen the best race from this horse yet. But again, he's another one who's in a way tougher race now than he has been in his last 2. I liked his Pimlico Special. Thought he ran really well in there. I also liked his Suburban, although and as hard as he fought in there, I thought Dynamic One ran the better race that day, and he's got Dynamic One to deal with again in here.
The number 7, Keep Me in Mind, Javier Castellano for Todd Pletcher. This is a horse that's a little bit underrated. I mean, keep in mind that he was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as a 3rd start maiden at 2. Last year, he was 2nd in the Jim Dandy, just missing by less than a length, although with a much better trip than Essential Quality. 4th in the Travers. He went away for a while. He returned for Pletcher, and he looked good in his first start off an 11-month layoff. And maybe this race hints at bigger and better because he does have some work to do turning into the stretch, going 9 furlongs off a long layoff. Todd's great off the bench, however. This horse goes by the leader readily.
He does. This is a good finish that this horse puts in from the top of the stretch. And that's after, saving a lot of ground, taking a lot of dirt in his face while held up behind horses. Once he got clear, he really ran. He wins this race very easily. I think he's the kind of horse you don't necessarily, just based on what he did as a 3-year-old, you don't necessarily worry about him stepping back up in class for this race, Dan. I think he's going to be able to handle it. I think he's going to be able to handle the distance as well. There's a lot to like about this horse at a price.
Todd has half the field. He concludes this Jockey Club Gold Cup with post position 8, Dynamic One. Arad Ortiz has the mount. And this horse always, since day one, you and I realized he needed distance. You loved him in the Wood Memorial back in April. He just missed for you. A big long shot beat him. He ran great. Todd gave him a little bit of time after the 2021 Derby, brought him back to Saratoga. He looked good in the Curlin. The Travers didn't work. And Todd is great because he's willing to give these horses plenty of time. And after a couple of races, this horse, I think, is reaching peak maturity, and he loves distance. Let's watch the Suburban last time out where he gets the better of First Captain and Untreated. Untreated is down towards the inside. He set the pace. First Captain made the first run in between horses. Dynamic One not only is sharp right now, but he is very, very game, as is the runner-up.
Yeah, it's true. At the upper stretch there, when we picked up that replay, it looked like Dynamic One was going to go right by, but First Captain was really having none of that, and he fought back very bravely between horses. Again, I still think Dynamic One ran the better race, but it was obviously close. I like this distance for this horse. I really like the direction he's headed into. The Suburban, perhaps the best race he's ever run, but he was good in the Blame 2 back. He was probably best in the Ben Ali 3 starts back when the trip didn't work out. This horse is just heading in the right direction right now, Dan. I think he's dangerous right back.
Top pick time for the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup on Saturday at Saratoga. Olympiad is the horse to beat. You could go some different ways. I think you're going to try to spice up the exotics. Being the president of the Dynamic One fan club, you're going to try to get him into the number.
Yeah, he was the other horse for me. I'm going to give Olympiad the chance at redemption here. I'm going to take him on top. And, as far as American Revolution goes, who might be, the horse that Olympiad's going to have to deal with most in this race, I just didn't feel like he was going to be a great price, Dan. I just sort of wanted to see him do it in here as he stretches out. And I think there are enough other alternatives in here to try to get better prices in there.
I think that's a very fair point you make about my top pick, American Revolution. It's funny because Olympiad went into the Whitney as a horse that had finally proven himself after slowly working his way up the class ladder. And now all of a sudden he has to do it all over again off of one race, which might not even be as bad as it looks on paper. If American Revolution does go off close to the price as Olympiad, maybe I would take a flyer with Tax, a horse that's always shown ability and might be able to get to the lead from the inside post. He's bound to be a price, but I've always liked American Revolution. I think the trip works out from second flight. 2856 for Mike, 5127 for me. It should be a sensational edition of the Grade 1 $1 million Jockey Club Gold Cup at the Spa.